play option.
This page contains various parameters that affect switching of patches. Preamp mode allows you to set up global preamps. For example, patch allows you to edit and use a different preamp for every single patch, but let's presume you want to use the same preamp for every patch. Well, you can set 3 different global preamps up and then specify which one you want to use by spinning the dial. This can be handy if you have multiple amplifiers where you want to use the preamp section of each amp. You would set a global preamp to suit each individual amp that you own, and then just change to each one accordingly. Patch change mode allows you to specify whether delay or reverb repeats will spill over from one patch to another when you change. Fast turns the spillover off, but allows for the quickest change time between patches. The smooth option is not as quick, but allows for more natural sounding switching if certain conditions are met. For example, if you are soloing and then switch to a different patch, the delay and reverb from your solo will carry over to the new patch, provided you have the same delay and reverb types in both patches. Here's an example of where I am changing from a solo patch to a clean patch. Hear how the delay carries over. But if I change the delay and reverb to a different type, it doesn't. If you want your effects to spill over, meeting these conditions is critical but not always possible depending on how you design your patches. Bank change mode sets the switching behavior when changing banks. I personally have it set to wait, which allows me to specify which patch within that bank I want to go to. If you have it set to immediately, it will change to the next bank straight away, and it will change to the same number that you are on in the current patch. So for example, I'm on patch 1, bank 1 now, so when I hit the bank up pedal, it will take me straight to patch 1 within that bank. Bank extent allows you to limit a range of banks that can be called up. A great example of where this may come in handy is, let's say you have 3 banks of patches that you use for a performance. You can define these settings so that banking up or down will only toggle through those 3 banks rather than the entire 100 banks that are contained in the GT10. If you want parameter values to always reflect the written state when switching patches, turn this function off. If turned on, the patch you switch to will take on the expression values of parameters from the previous patch. For example, if the volume pedal's position is at 85 from the first patch, it will remain at 85 when you switch until you physically change it. I personally like to always switch to patches that reflect the saved values within that patch, so I make sure this function is set to off. Pedal indicators will cause the LEDs to flash on patches that are not currently selected, so that you can see them at a glance. You may find this function useful if you play in venues where the stage is dimly lit. A little earlier we had a look at using the tuner of the GT10, and as I mentioned back then, I've got my GT10 set up so that when I hit the currently selected patch number, the tuner comes on. This is known as the number pedal switch function, and you can access it by going into System, then scroll to Play option, and then press Enter. And it's about halfway down the list and you'll see number pedal switch. Now, this function basically allows you to free up the use of the control pedals for better use. You can define a handful of different functions here, and as I mentioned, I've got mine set to tuner, but by using the value dial there, you can either set it to off, which basically bypasses any additional function here. So hitting the currently selected patch pedal will have absolutely no effect. Tuner, which we know. Channel AB, this allows you to, basically, if I just go exit out of there, by pressing the current selected patch, I can toggle between my 2 preamps within that particular patch. This is great if you want to toggle between, say, a clean or a dirty, or a dirty and a lead sound within the one patch without having to assign it to a control pedal. Then if I jump back into that menu, then you've got the OD solo. Okay, this allows me to basically use the number pedal switch to turn the solo function on for the overdrive. The next one is just straight out solo. Now, if you're using, say, a single preamp and you're toggling between two different preamps, this will turn the solo function on for the preamp that is active at that particular time. Okay, it won't turn both channel A, B solo on. It'll only turn on the solo function for the currently selected preamp. But you do have an AB solo function there as well, so that if you're using, say, a dual left and right preamp, you can engage the solo function for both preamps simultaneously. So there you go, a handful of really handy functions. Again, I use the tuner function. I find that the best, so that regardless of what patch I'm in, if I'm in patch 2 for instance, press it again, tuner comes on. Just press the button again to exit the tuner. So there you have it. That's the number pedal switch. Dial function allows you to specify whether the dial will change only parameter values or be used for patch selection and parameter values. One situation where you would set it to only parameters is if when you play live and you have trouble with guitar cables dragging across the GT10, which may inadvertently change patches.